You may like him or not, but Joe Rogan is a pretty interesting person. Primarily known for his podcast, but also famous for his comedy acts, Rogan is also a passionate car lover. In his collection, you will find a bunch of solid resto mods, including a 1965 Corvette Stingray, 71 Bronco, and Supra Mk4. But nothing beats that black 69 Camaro, restored by Roadster Shop, with upgrades that made it cost $500,000. What made it so expensive? What are the key upgrades over the standard Camaro SS? Let's break down Joe Rogan's Camaro and see what's so special about it. While that clean black exterior is definitely the first thing everyone notices on Rogan's Camaro, we think it may be best to start with the powertrain because there's so much going on under the hood of what was originally a classic Camaro SS with a 427 V8. Of course, it all started with the new LSA crate motor, a supercharged V8 that, in its standard variant, delivers around 580 horsepower. But then came massive upgrades from the well-known Wagner Automotive, a company specialized in GM tuning. And yes, the performance upgrades are impressive. The Wagner kit includes a revised head, new cam and injectors, a new pulley, and a serpentine drive, which was enough to increase the maximum output to 850 horsepower. And since Rogan's residence is currently in Austin, installing an adequate cooling system that helps the engine stand Texas heat was a must. Guys from Roadster Shop use DEI products, while a CNR radiator with a PWM-controlled fan that utilizes GM's modern-day fan is another standout feature. Also, the brake system was upgraded with a Willwood Tandem 7A master cylinder, with a heat shield protecting brake lines from the heat coming from the headers, which leads us to the conclusion that Rogan's demands weren't just about achieving seamless aesthetics, but keeping the whole car functional, serviceable, and built to withstand heavy exploitation. According to Rogan, the outcome turned out to be exceptional, and the best thing about the powertrain isn't about the max output, but the way power is delivered. Because, in many cases, there are much more powerful cars that simply aren't enjoyable to drive due to a specific power band. In this Camaro, that's not the case, because the power curve is so great that the moment you step on the throttle, you feel all the mightiness of the LSA engine. Simply, Wagner Automotive perfected its kit for the LSA engine and made it one of the best upgrades for any engine on the market. Another upgrade worth mentioning is the stainless steel gas tank with notched front corners that allow enough space for a massive 3-inch exhaust to pass it, as well as an internal pump borrowed directly from the CTS-V rather than getting one of the numerous aftermarket options. The idea was to use a pump that's PWM controlled, which doesn't run at full capacity all the time, to extend its lifespan significantly. The biggest issue with resto modding is that people neglect the chassis and suspension upgrades. Engine upgrades are a great thing, but in terms of driving experience, they don't mean much if you don't work out putting all that power to the ground. That's why Rogan, when approaching guys from Roadster Shop, had pretty specific requirements. In that way that the Camaro's chassis needed to be built in a way to offer great driving experience, both in terms of handling and comfort. So, he was offered different chassis options, and of course, the choice was natural. Roadster Shop's spec chassis that would improve handling and ride quality without making big modifications to the floor. If you ever drove a classic Camaro SS, you know what troubles it the most. Just like every classic pony car, it feels unstable, swayed on the road with the obvious lack of control. In other words, it's not exactly a car that inspires confidence, especially not with so much power coming from the upgraded engine. Folks over at Roadster Shop managed to overcome limitations from the factory suspension geometry in the way that their spec chassis was designed as an all-in-one engineered solution. The front suspension is characterized by a pro-drop spindle, designed around the Mustang II spindle pin. That design approach allows a wide range of brake options, while the car is equipped with single adjustable SV Fox coilovers, which offer a good blend of ride quality and performance. A sway bar has been installed at the front as well, while at the rear, there is a pretty modern 4-link suspension, once again with single adjustable Fox coilovers. Also equipped with a sway bar, which represents a spectacular improvement over the original setup. Besides the suspension, Rogan also wanted to solve another typical Camaro issue: steering, which is well known for having way too much free movement. With the original system, you could move the wheel 15 degrees without any response. So the installation of a modern power rack and pinion steering system was a logical move, as it ensured way more direct steering with excellent input and feel. Finally, a few words about the wheels and tires. The Roadster Shop spec chassis is designed to accommodate the widest tires possible, as it includes widened fiberglass and carbon fiber inner fenders in the front, allowing plenty of clearance. So, fitting 18 by 9.5 inch front wheels with 55 width tires wasn't a particularly challenging task. They even solved the rear end in the way that their spec chassis is designed with narrow frame rails, allowing massive 345 width tires on 19 by 12 inch wheels to be installed without problems. As mentioned, this was originally a classic 427 SS in black finish with white stripes. So Joe's idea was to stay true to its original form, to bring visual upgrades that aren't anything but wild and erratic. He wanted to pay tribute to the original design, so you won't find any crazy restaurant elements here, but rather a super clean design that closely mimics the original. Still, that doesn't mean that Rogan's 69 SS didn't see massive modifications. At the front, Roadster Shop needed to figure out a new front bumper that would fit the level of body refinement, so the decision was made to install a hand-fabricated bumper, while the lower valance had to be custom-made in order to fit the original fog lamps, but to offer a little bit more ground clearance that would prevent damages from parking curbs and make everyday ride more convenient. The hood is probably the best example of how much passion was invested in this restoration, because it may look like the original one with a cowl induction design, but once you take a closer look, you will notice that the cowl extends a bit toward the front. The thing is that the hood is completely unique, crafted from carbon fiber as a one-off piece, mounted on Ring Brothers hood hinges to ensure smooth operation and provide a more OEM-like feel. Joe Rogan is a big fan of HRE wheels, so the choice was easy. From the very beginning, the idea was to execute an all-black look, so a classic mono-black design was a natural choice because it perfectly blends with the car well and accommodates massive bare 14-inch calipers with ease. Once you come to the doors, you will notice one of the rare major modifications on the body. The original door handles have been removed for a cleaner look, and in their place, you'll find handles in a latch system from the C6 Corvette with a push-button mechanism that also removed that typical clunky sound. From the moment this restoration started, it was clear the iconic quarter-panel gills would have to stay, as we are talking about one of Camaro's trademarks. Still, they have been upgraded with unique billet inserts which, painted in satin black, add an extra dose of exclusivity to the car. The rear end brings typical Camaro styling upgrades on parts like the splitter, rocker modeling, and rear spoiler. Still, the latter was a little bit tricky to execute, as the original unit tends to overlap the quarter panels and make it difficult to achieve tight trunk haps. Therefore, the spoiler needed to be redesigned. The new unit is a three-piece assembly with a profile that allows the original shape but adds a bit of a refined touch. Speaking of refinement, the rear bumper has been reworked too. It's been tucked in, so all visible fasteners have been removed in order to follow the clean look from the rest of the car. Finally, a new exhaust has been installed with fancy Cerakote coated pipes. Altogether, visual upgrades are massive, even though it may not seem like that at first. Because once again, the idea was to mimic the original look as much as possible. Most of the alterations were actually made for the sake of functionality, to enhance performance, and to make the everyday ride more convenient. That's the actual beauty of this resto mod, because it was done with purpose, not to make a show car with seamless aesthetics, but a car that's reliable, capable, and convenient for the everyday drive. Speaking of everyday functionality, we can't skip all that stuff that's going on in the trunk, which is full of smart and well thought out details. For example, underneath the bumper, you will find a small push pad that activates an electric latch. Once you open the trunk, you will find a couple of hidden panels that reveal some really interesting stuff. One of them hides a couple of jumper studs for easy connection with jumper cables if needed. while there is also a cord for that external plug with spare relays and fuses. Everything in here is well thought out, so you will also find a labeled battery disconnect switch for convenient long-term storage. We came to the second panel, and that one hides the stereo, subwoofer, and a battery tender, with the latter being directly wired into the car. So when you flip down the license plate, you will find a small plug that allows you to charge the battery without the need to run a cable through the trunk and leave it open. Handy features are all over the place, including a small kickstand that gives you easy access to the fuel filler, which means that you can set the latch, walk away, and let the tank fill up. Something that normally you wouldn't be able to do in your classic muscle car. What are your thoughts on Joe Rogan's Resto Mod? Is this a perfect blend of style and performance and functionality? Could this be one of the best Camaro Resto Mods around? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe because there is so much more on this channel for all you muscle car lovers. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.